Hello Resithrive, welcome back to the channel. Now I just want to thank everyone who is subscribed to this channel, everyone who likes my videos, everyone who leaves comments. I appreciate you so much and I learn a lot from you. Now in this video I want to talk about the fact that you can have a British passport and still feel like an outsider. Now months ago I made a video talking about how I got my British citizenship, and in that video I stated that on the actual day of the ceremony, I felt quite emotional. And this is something that caught me off guard. I didn't expect to feel that emotional, and I actually shed a tear. And later in the evening on that day, I texted a friend. I actually told them that I actually feel proud to be a British citizen, which is something I didn't expect. And they actually laughed at me and they said, well, it is normal, it is natural, you shouldn't feel surprised, and you've got every right to feel proud. And looking back, I realized that that day was probably the last day I felt like I truly belong. I don't know, maybe it was because of the emotions, the speeches and everything that was going on. I don't know, but all I know is on that day I felt comfortable with the label British. But since then I've realized that you can have a British passport, speak the language fluently, embrace the British culture, you know, like do everything British, but still not feel British yourself. Did you know that? Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not talking about rejecting British culture. There's a difference between embracing the culture and feeling like you don't truly belong to it. For me, that distinction is important. Now, I've lived in the UK for 25 years. I'm sure some of you are sick of hearing me say this, but I can assure you, whenever I say it, it is because I want to make a point. And in this video, the point I'm trying to make is, despite living in the UK for more than 2 decades, I still struggle to call myself British. I struggle to say it out loud, to say, okay, my name is Bertha and I'm British. There's something about it that almost feels unnatural to me. Don't get me wrong, I still feel proud to be British. I may not have the accent, but trust me, that pride is there. It is there inside. But there's something about it that makes it hard for me. So I've been reflecting on this and asking myself, why do I feel this way? And I'm finally starting to understand it. Now, before I get into it, I just want to say that the reason I've chosen this topic is to highlight as to why some people feel disconnected despite having a UK passport, and the reasons might not be what you expect. So here are my reasons. The first reason is to do with memory and cultural roots. Now, I came to the UK in my 20s, which means I was already an adult when I moved to the UK, which means my formative years were formed outside of the UK. Were formed in Zimbabwe because that's where I come from. And I know through my teacher's training, when I studied psychology and all that, I know that a child's core development is pretty much solidified during those early years, usually between 8 to 10 years of age. It all depends on which book you're reading, but during those early years, a child's development is pretty much sealed. So because I relocated when I was already an adult, it means that I was socialized in Zimbabwe. My core development happened in Zimbabwe. My daughter, on the other hand, was born here, raised here, even though she proudly identifies as Zimbabwean as well. She feels far more comfortable identifying herself as British, calling herself British out loud, and so on. She is more comfortable because, like I said, she was born here. And because her formative years happened in this country, it makes sense that she feels more British than I do. So there's a difference in our upbringing because our upbringing shapes us. It is what shapes us, how we see ourselves as people. So that's the first reason. My second reason is to do with language and social identity. Now, here's something that I find really funny. Let's say I'm having a conversation with maybe a native of this country. We are speaking in English, we're laughing, we're joking. What I find really funny or strange about that is the fact that I think in my native language. I think in Shona. Everything that I want to say enters my mind, first of all, in Shona, but everything is automatically translated to English. I don't know if other people experience that, but I just find it really strange and funny how that happens. Like the words in my mind are in Shona, but the conversation is automatic in English when it comes out. Isn't that strange? And another thing as well I'll say about that is the fact that sometimes there are these moments when I find myself speaking in my mother tongue, to a native of this country, sometimes I'm at the supermarket and I'm buying something and then I just utter a sentence in Shona and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I actually forgot, I'm not at home. And then most of the time, I mean, they just laugh because I guess they understand that it happens or they've experienced it many times and now they just find it funny. I don't know. So yeah, it's like my mind is wired to process the world the Zimbabwean way first and then everything else second. So yeah, that could be another reason. This is me just trying to process everything to understand why I still feel like an outsider despite having that British passport. My next reason is to do with reminders. Now, these reminders are in two forms. The first part is to do with what I do at home. Now, I made a video recently talking about what you can do to keep yourself sane or to keep your sanity, to avoid those mental health issues, because as immigrants, we have challenges. And one of those challenges is to do with homesickness, just feeling sad because you're missing home. And I gave examples of what I do at home to avoid feeling sad because I miss home. And some of the things I mentioned are to do with food. I say that at home I cook food that remind me of home. I cook my sadza, I cook my derere, and actually today I'm going to cook derere. As it happens, I cook makuru and all that. So those are reminders. And also I said in that video, I play music from home. Like sometimes I make a weekend of it. I put music and sometimes, you know, I blast the music because I need a fix. And also I've talked about the need to stay connected to your roots, you know, to know what is going on back home and that sort of thing. So those habits are reminders of home. So if you're constantly surrounded by those reminders, chances are that you are not going to feel more British than you feel Zimbabwean. You are going to feel more Zimbabwean than you feel British. So in my situation, because I have these reminders, this could be one of the reasons why I struggle to call myself British, why it still feels a little bit unnatural to me. That could be another reason. Another way to look at it is the fact that I'm constantly being reminded that I'm not from around here. For example, if someone asks me, oh, where are you from, dear? And I say, oh, I'm from London. No. Where are you really from? That is a reminder. That is a constant reminder that actually you're not really British. Yes, you call yourself British, you have that passport, but you're not really British, are you? I mean, I don't struggle with that question myself. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, I have to make myself clear. This is where I stand when it comes to this question. I don't see anything wrong with it because whenever someone asks me, where are you from? I say Zimbabwe. This, you know, I don't feel strange at all. I mean, I'm quite comfortable with that question. And that could also explain why calling myself British still feels a bit unnatural. And there are times as well, other immigrants can also remind you that actually you're not British. In fact, some people will even point out the fact that, yes, you might have the passport now, but you can actually lose it. I mean, some people will make it a point to remind you. It happens. It has happened on this channel when I made a video and I called myself British Zimbabwean or Zimbabwean British. I mean, I don't even know which way is the correct way because I don't call myself that. But in that video, I mentioned it because it was that type of video. It was for a reason. So yeah, these reminders are real. So when you're constantly being reminded that you are an other, the first part, of course, is self-inflicted because I surround myself with these reminders because it is my choice. I want to have that connection. The second one comes from outside, other people reminding you that you're actually another, you're different, you're not from around here. So yeah, it is a double-edged sword. But having said that, I see my Britishness is now part of my identity. It is my identity now. You know, whether I feel like it or not, it is part of my identity. And honestly speaking, I see it as a privilege. I mean, having dual citizenship is a privilege because it allows you, or it makes it possible for you to enjoy the best of both worlds. That's why I say it is a privilege. I mean, let's call a thing a thing. And it also enables me to embrace the two cultures, my Zimbabwean culture and the British culture. And that is enriching in itself. I mean, having lived in the UK for 25 years, I have grown in so many ways because, as we know, United Kingdom is a multicultural society, and living in a multicultural society broadens your horizon. I mean, you start to look at the world through a different lens. You learn new ways of doing things, new ways of thinking, and you get to experience all those cultures, and that enriches you as a person, and it strengthens you as well. It helps you develop that resilience, because living in a multicultural society comes with its own set of challenges as well, unique challenges. So it means that you have to adapt, and you need to learn to communicate. You need to learn to be diplomatic. You learn to be tolerant of other people, which is something that underpins British culture, that tolerance, respect, and inclusivity. So in conclusion, I want to say this. Even though having dual citizenship can be complex, it doesn't have to be a burden. I mean, I don't necessarily have to force myself to fit into a certain box. It is not necessary. What I've learned to do is to embrace my uniqueness. As an immigrant who's got a British passport, I'm in this unique position, and I want that to work in my favor. It doesn't have to be something that is negative. For me, it's about learning, it's about growth, and it's about resilience, and using all my experiences to make me a better person. That's what it's all about as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I would like to hear from you. What is your experience with this situation? Do you feel like you belong? If you're from Zimbabwe or another country in Africa, or if you're from India, Pakistan, wherever you are, and you've got a British passport, how do you feel? Do you feel like you truly belong? Are you comfortable with the label British? I would like to hear your experiences. As always, feel free to chip in the comment section.